Kinda almost want to bring Richard to the field just for the slow. You know what I'm saying? Like, just for the slow, I kind of want Richard. A 50% slow, right off the bat, could mean, like, everything. I mean, it's less damage, but I'm considering it. I'm really considering it, actually. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms video. This is Dragothien here. Today we're going to be talking about Richard, and is he still viable in a Season of Conquest KvK? This is Kingdom 307's KvK. We just wrapped up Kingsland. We're starting to expand into the level 7 areas. I'm going to show you some footage from our KvK fighting on why I think that Richard is still viable, and we're going to go over what that reason is and really what you should be using if you're a 5 March, 6 March, or 7 March player in Season of Conquest KvK. Stay tuned. Alright everybody, welcome back. I wanted to start off by showing you the evolution of my presets throughout this particular KvK, and again, very bloody KvK that we've been in Kingdom 307. If you've missed it, massive streams over the last few days, 10 hours plus on multiple days, fighting in the open field, rallies, garrison, all that fun stuff. If you missed it, make sure you go back and check a few of those things and see some of the battle and the action that we were in, but I want to show you what I started off my 7 March pairings with, and then we're going to go into what I ended up with about halfway through this KvK. And I want to show you why I made the changes that I made. And again, the biggest change I made, which caused the most, I don't know if controversy is the right word, but caused the most questions to pop up, was why do you have Richard in one of your pairings? I'm going to show you why in just a second. But first off, let's go through my original pairing. Salad and William, top tier pairing. You cannot complain about a pairing like that. Nebu YSG, another top tier pairing. Cannot complain about that. Artemisia Tamiris is probably a middling pairing now at this point, if I have to be honest. Very strong damage output. And of course, Tamiris inside of a pairing with a 7 March setup is almost a must-have now at this point. But Artemisia is starting to be a little lackluster on the open field comparably to the rest of the stuff that's come out lately. If you don't have all the latest commanders, Artemisia is still a really good pair, so don't get scared off by that. But if you have the newest stuff, maybe start to think about replacing her with maybe a Honda or something like that. Cyrus Ramses, again, a very solid pair. Harold Alex, one of my best pairs ever that I've ever played with. Really, really strong. I like Harold primary for the extra skill damage and also for the skill rejuvenation skill on the talent tree. So very strong there. We've also got Guan CJ. Now this is one of the ones that I ended up changing up. And again, most people go Guan Harold or Guan Leo here. I do have Leo. I personally went with CJ and just liked the damage output much better. We've talked at length about Leo and how I think he's on the bench at this point, but, you know, we can kind of go from there. And then, of course, XY Nevsky. This is another top tier, top 3 pairing. Again, Nevsky William would work here fine, and then XY Saladin, which I did actually start the KvK with, but then it ended up switching back because my Nevsky kept getting insta-swarmed down because people don't like Nevsky on the open field. So this was my original 7-pair setup, okay? And it works well. It works really well, don't get me wrong. This is a instant death. If I get a hold of something and they don't go back immediately, I'm going to cause so much damage, they're either going to die or they're going to lose so many troops in that march, they're going to have to get sent back and get refreshed. So either way, that march is now out of the battle, and then I can focus on a different march. But what I did, and what I noticed, was that whenever I was fighting with this preset setup, because of the nature of battle, right, where you have two sides that are going in and out and in and out, trying to sneak some quick hits and then come back. It's back and forth, right? On the front line, which is where I'm at. With this type of account, you have to be on the front line or you're just not using your account the way it should be used. You have to be able to get a hold of something, right? And like I said, with 7 marches, all this skill damage and all this damage in general, if you get a hold of something, you're going to really just cause so much devastation to it that it's going to be nullified one way or another. The problem I kept running into was that as a march would come into my area where my 7 marches were at, I'd switch targets to it. It would already start moving back because it was already in the process of getting pulled back by the player. And then only maybe 2 or 3 of my marches would be hitting it because speed-wise, right? They're going to be coming back to their own territory more often than not, and they're going to be out march speeding me. So I'm going to be hitting them with maybe XY Nevsky, maybe Saladin William, and then speed-wise, I mean, that's about it. All these other marches that I've got, for the most part, once they're in the open field, are relatively slow. Sometimes my Cyrus Ramses would be still hitting it, but that's about it. Like, I would have 2, maybe 3 marches hitting that march on its way back. So what I decided to do was switch up my presets to a different setup and incorporate Richard. And I put Richard with Guan. Of course, when Scipio is out right now, technically you can max him, but I'm going to wait and do all the spins because I don't have really any pressing need to max him on my main accounts, at least. I put Richard with Guan, and the reason I did that is because of Richard's expertise skill here. Tyrannico Lion, it's not required to be infantry, so you could add Richard to any march, like say Saladin. And again, that's a good point to make here. I do have a video on this very topic. What's the best march to maximum slow a target? That's Saladin Richard. Go check this video out right here, and it will show you exactly the testing that I did and showed you on the screen what it looks like, how slow these marches get going, or how slow they get once you really start to target that march down with a Saladin Richard army. Right here is the way to go. But Tyrannical Lion is a part of that process, and I've got Saladin in another march, so technically it will still kind of work the same way. But Richard Tyrannical Lion, again, not infantry focused. You don't have to have infantry to have this proc. The last sentence is the key. Every 10 seconds, the target's march speed is reduced by 50% for 5 whole seconds. 5 whole seconds is an eternity whenever your march is inside the murder ball of somebody else and you're trying to pull it back. That is an eternity to have your march be 50% march speed slowed. That's huge. This instantly procs every time. You don't have to wait for a skill to go off. You don't have to wait for a 10% chance. Maybe it'll go off. This goes off every time. Soon as you hit the target, it procs. The next second, it will activate, and then you've got 5 seconds of 50% march speed debuff on your target. With Richard in my 7 march setup now, I'm able to completely swarm my target for 5 seconds full, at least, if not more, depending on how deep that target went, right? That will guarantee me the maximum damage on my target. So if there's a target that comes into our murder ball and it's at least somewhat near me, I'm going to get rid of it. That's the whole key here. So that's why I added Richard into my lineup. And until there's another march that's out there that does an instant proc guaranteed 50% march speed debuff every single time, I believe I'm not going to be able to get rid of Richard in a murder ball open field fight situation. It's just too critical. Now, who should be using Richard in the open field for this? Well, I think everybody, really, whether you're a 5, 6, or 7 march KvK player, you can still afford to do this. One, because if you're a 5 march player, that means you're not maxing tech, you're not really going hard on being able to get as many crystals as you possibly could if you were to say buy, or if you were to say be more active. That means that your marches probably aren't that great either, and incorporating a Richard into it shouldn't be that hard. You could replace a Charles with a Richard. You could replace a Sun Tzu with a Richard. You could replace any number of the other commanders that you might be using that are not named XY, that are not named Nevsky, that are not named YSG, that are not named, you know, those types of caliber of player of commanders, right? You could replace one of your commanders with a Richard inside of your 5 march setup. Same thing applies for your 6 march. You've got an extra march. So have that 5 march setup, your really solid 5 march setup. You're likely close to max tech, right? If you've got 6 marches, and you can go ahead and throw in, again, a Richard YSG or a Richard Sun Tzu or something like that, where you're going to cause some damage too if you get a hold of something with it, but you're getting that slow from Richard's expertise. And again, the Richard has to be expertised for this to work, right? If you don't have a max Richard, this is not going to be applicable. There is no other slow besides his main, which again, you have to fire off, which requires rage requirement. And again, the point of what having Richard in the march is for is that instant slow. So let's take a quick peek at some of the footage here that I'm talking about. I'm going to show you some footage without Richard in in the setup here, and then I'm going to show you some footage with Richard in the setup, and you'll see what I mean when I say I'm showing you some footage where there's 2 or 3 marches that I'm using that are actually hitting the target, and then once I'm using Richard, all of my marches are continuing to smash that target as it tries to run back to its own murder ball. Check this out, and I'll see you on the other side. That's a call. That's a call. It dodge that. Okay, so I slowed Ramses. Let's see how much it lets me. I think that helped, because I just melted him. He's done. I think that helped. All right, I hope you enjoyed that footage. Again, very fun KvK that we just finished Kingsland up in. We're still, again, fighting some more and more in level 7 zone area. 2120 is not giving up their forts very easily. We're still rallying them. And again, we're pushing into 2155 zone. Let me show you really quick before we wrap the video up what my final 7 march setup ended up being. And again, this is going to get augmented a little bit with Scipio and Flavius both coming out. So Cyrus Ramses, my first march here, and that's one that's I've had for quite some time because of the synergy between the two. That's really, really good. Saladin William, just saw that earlier on the other preset setup, very strong. Harold Alex, one of the top 3 marches in my opinion in the game for open field. So strong. I went ahead and put Nebu back with Gilga because I needed to be able to, in Kingsland, I needed to be able to rally instantly instead of having to pull back and reorganize gear and all that stuff. I needed to be able to rally quickly, and this is my best set of gear with 6 iconic pieces, so I needed to make sure I had that ready to rock and roll. Again, Artemisia Tamiris, ready to rock and roll on that one. Guan Richard ended up being my pairing instead of Guan CJ. And then finally, we have XY and Nevsky like we had on the other pairing too. So that ended up being my 7 march setup about halfway through Kingsland on, and I saw such great results that I have not removed Richard since then. And again, so many questions on the stream. Why are you using Richard? This is why. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it makes sense to everybody. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Make sure you hit me up on my Discord. If you have any questions as well, happy to answer you there. This is a sponsored content creation channel for Rise of Kingdoms. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers. Have a good one and take care.